Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we are unpacking literally the most explosive technological shift in modern history, the AI evolution. We're going to cut right through the endless hype, trace exactly how we got here, and break down how this tech is actively rewiring your data, your privacy, and your daily work. So let's dive right in.
But let's just address the elephant in the room right off the bat, okay? Is AI about to take your job, or is it just here to do the boring parts for you? I mean, it's the question keeping professionals up at night. Today, we're looking at the hard data to reveal the exact stakes for you, right now.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, demystifying the AI buzzwords.
So at its absolute highest level, artificial intelligence is this incredibly broad discipline with one ultimate goal: creating intelligent machines that match or eventually exceed human cognitive ability. It's essentially the grand ambition of making a machine think.
Now, right underneath that massive AI umbrella, we find machine learning and deep learning. Think of these as the actual engines driving the car. See, instead of a human writing explicit step-by-step code, these algorithms rely on massive amounts of data to learn patterns entirely on their own. They just figure it out, independently.
Let's look at how this actually plays out in practice with the classic spam filter test. It breaks down into 3 simple steps. Step 1, the input. You feed the network an email with trigger words like prize or money. Step 2, process. Early neurons weigh these individual signals while deeper layers combine them to understand the context. And finally, Step 3, predict. The network calculates a probability. If it's high enough, boom, it's flagged as spam.
And the way the network actually learns all this is through 2 fundamental parameters: weights and biases. You can literally think of weights as dials on a dashboard. They control how strongly an input influences the decision. So, for example, the word prize gets dialed way up. Biases, on the other hand, act as built-in thresholds, allowing a neuron to activate even if a specific input is pretty weak. By constantly adjusting these dials behind the scenes, the machine learns over time.
Moving right along to Section 2, from Turing to today. Way back in 1950, Alan Turing proposed his famous imitation game to test if a machine could exhibit intelligent behavior indistinguishable from a human. By the 1960s, a chatterbot named Eliza successfully fooled users into thinking it was real. Fast forward a bit, and things accelerated incredibly fast. Apple launched Siri in 2011. Amazon dropped Alexa in 2014. These were revolutionary command and control systems. Today, we have fully emerged into the era of answer engines and generative AI, where the machine doesn't just retrieve information, it actively reasons and creates.
So what's actually blowing people's minds right now? Well, the State of AI survey tracked users' top wow moments. And get this, people aren't stunned by basic chatbots anymore. A massive 28% cited advanced coding as their wow moment, where AI is building entire apps. Right behind it at 22%, sudden breakthroughs in media generation. We're talking hyper-realistic video and audio created basically out of thin air.
Which brings us to Section 3, looking under the hood.
Okay, so a crucial control mechanism developers use to manage these brains is something called persona vectors. Researchers can actually isolate internal activations that represent specific personality traits. In one wild example of activation engineering, researchers injected a vector for evil into an AI. It chillingly suggested using starvation as a weapon. Now, why on earth would they do this? Well, it acts kind of like a vaccine. By deliberately steering models toward toxic vectors during testing, developers can make them highly resilient against bad behavior in the real world.
And there's this other fascinating quirk with how these massive models stabilize. As they process larger and larger contexts, they naturally develop what are called attention sinks. Developers debated for a while about why this happens, but it turns out attention sinks aren't a bug in the system at all. They're actually the brakes. They throttle the computation, stopping the AI from totally overmixing the information.
Next up, Section 4, the new search engines.
For decades, we've totally relied on traditional search. You know the drill, right? Type a keyword, scan those top 10 blue links, click, and bounce around. It's highly transactional. But answer engines are changing that habit entirely. According to data from Profound, users treat AI completely differently. The sessions are longer. There's a dynamic back and forth. The user intent is so much higher. You aren't just searching for a website anymore, you're collaborating with an agent to get an immediate, synthesized answer.
But you gotta wonder, where exactly are they getting these answers? Profound's data analyzed how models like ChatGPT cite the web,
And honestly, it is wild. While they definitely do rely heavily on Google's index, ChatGPT is just as likely to surface content from way further down the search results page. It's pulling from lower-ranked pages that, let's be real, human users almost never scroll down far enough to click, exposing entirely new areas of the web to us. When you break down the top sourcing domains, you get heavy hitters like Reddit at 3.5%, Wikipedia at 1.7%, YouTube at 1.5%, and Forbes at 1.0%. But the crazy thing is, different models have entirely different sourcing personalities. Gemini and Perplexity heavily favor concise, mainstream hits. Meanwhile, DeepSeek draws on deep, long-form content. What this means is that optimization is no longer just about ranking #1 on Google, it's about structuring your data so an AI actually decides to cite you.
All right, let's tackle the big one. Section 5. Will AI take your job?
You might want to brace yourselves for this metric. According to microeconomic modeling by the Boston Consulting Group, in just the next 2 to 3 years, 50 to 55% of all U.S. jobs will be reshaped by AI. That is a staggering majority of the workforce.
But wait, here is the plot twist. Task automation absolutely does not strictly equal job loss. BCG breaks this down brilliantly into 2 buckets. Yes, some roles will be substituted. These are roles that are highly routine, structured, and honestly don't require complex interpersonal judgment. But a huge portion of that 55% falls into augmented roles. Listen, if your job requires high human interaction, nuanced emotional intelligence, negotiation, or open-ended problem solving, AI isn't going to replace you. It's going to act as a powerful co-pilot, upgrading your capabilities and taking the mundane tasks right off your plate.
And BCG highlights a really cool concept here called demand expandability. Basically, when AI drastically drops the cost and the time it takes to do something, total demand explodes. Think about it. If AI makes generating initial drafts incredibly cheap, organizations will just demand way more content. That expands the entire field, creating a massive need for even more human strategists and creative directors to oversee all that output.
This leads us right into our final area, Section 6, the privacy trade-off.
There is a fiercely ongoing debate surrounding all of this convenience. On one side, developers argue that collecting sensitive user data, like voice recordings, geolocation, and online activity, is essentially a necessary evil. They claim it's the only way to build valuable, functioning applications like advanced speech recognition. On the flip side, critics view this as deeply unethical surveillance. For example, it was revealed that Amazon recorded millions of private Alexa conversations and allowed temporary workers to listen to and transcribe some of them to train their algorithms. For a lot of people, that is a clear, undeniable violation of the right to privacy.
This whole tension is actively reshaping how experts view our digital rights. The author Brian Christian brilliantly summarized this pivot. He notes that the conversation in the tech world is shifting away from just the question of what they know about us and moving heavily toward the question of what they're doing with it. It's becoming way less about absolute secrecy and much more about fairness and transparency in how our data is actually deployed.
As AI seamlessly integrates into our search engines, our offices, and literally our homes, the benefits are just undeniable. It's augmenting human capability in ways we honestly couldn't even imagine a decade ago. But as we willingly hand over the massive amounts of data required to fuel this intelligence, we are left staring at one absolutely critical question. What is the ultimate cost of this convenience? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you